Welcome back to Teacher Talks. Today we're going to talk about the dangers of social transition and affirmation. We should probably start with some definitions. Erin, do you want to talk about what those things are?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really understand what affirmation and social transition is. A lot of people think they hear at least, oh, let a child socially transition, it's no big deal. So basically, social transition is when you accept the concept that a child could be born in the wrong body and that they want to present as the opposite sex. This is really cosmetic changes, external presentation, oftentimes adhering to really regressive stereotypes. So when a child socially transitions, they often will adopt the hairstyle, traditional names, traditional behaviors of the opposite sex. They're not actually becoming the opposite sex, they're just sort of mimicking it. And affirmation, it sounds like a great word, doesn't it? We're going to affirm somebody, we're going to provide affirmation. But in this case, it's really dangerous because the concept of affirmation is acknowledging and affirming that a child is actually the opposite sex, that the gender identity that they're assuming is reasonable. And I think it's really important as educators and adult authority figures that we never indicate that somebody can be the opposite sex or that they were born in the wrong body. And so I think this is a great opportunity for us to talk about how dangerous it is to accept the idea that we're just going to socially transition a child.
I want to talk a little bit more about affirmation as well, because we've always considered affirmation to be a good thing. But affirmation, affirming someone, is really saying, I value you as a person. You are a good person. You are worthy of respect. You are worthy of attention and time and love. That's what affirmation is. But the gender industry has, as it has with so many other words, co-opted the word and put a different meaning on it. We do not affirm someone's wrong ideas. We affirm their value, their inherent value as a person, but not their wrong ideas. We don't affirm anorexics. We don't say, oh, yes, you're right. You're actually very fat and we need to help you get thin. We don't affirm schizophrenics. Oh, yes, those people that you see that aren't really there, those voices that you hear, you need to listen to those. We don't affirm wrong ideas. We affirm people's value. And I think that's an important distinction to make. I want to express also that social transition really is harmful because what we're seeing is nearly 100% of kids who socially transition, who adopt the stereotypical hairstyles, clothing styles, names, pronouns of the opposite sex, if they are affirmed in that wrong belief, they tend to go on to medicalization. Medicalization is harmful. It damages their bodies. So by saying, well, we're just going to affirm them socially, that's not harmful. That's not a true statement. It is harmful because it's moving them into a direction that is harmful.
It is harmful in so many ways. Another way that I think it's harmful is to not just that child, but to all the other children around them, because it's suggesting that adopting the stereotypical look of the opposite sex somehow transforms them into the opposite sex. And I think that's a really dangerous message to give to kids, especially younger kids who still have very magical thinking and might get really confused and scared. And we actually heard about a case in California where a teacher allowed a child to socially transition, brought all the kids together, had the child leave as a boy and come back dressed as a girl. And the message was the boy is now a girl. And some of the kids got very scared because they were worried that they could somehow change sex if they somehow did something that was stereotypically of the opposite sex. It's a really dangerous message to give to kids. And as you said, it's also affirming this fundamental lie that our outward appearance somehow changes our DNA, our chromosomes. And we know that's not true.
And it undercuts, especially young children's reality testing, their sense of what is true, what is foundational, what doesn't change. Small children, especially, need to know what is not going to change. And like that child in California, I spoke to parents of a child who had I Am Jazz read to them in a kindergarten class. And this child was so upset and so scared and didn't even want to talk about it, but it's a very common thing, especially for boys, young boys, to be afraid that their penises might fall off. I've talked to psychiatrists who say that's a really common fear for young boys. And we need to reassure them that is not going to happen to you. You are the sex that your body presents, and that's not going to change. And by affirming a social transition, we're really telling kids something that's not true, that's very scary, that undercuts the basic facts of science and reality.
The other way it's dangerous is that social transition almost always includes allowing that child to go into the bathroom, the locker room, overnight facilities of the opposite sex. Not only is that's very confusing to little kids, but it's also potentially harmful and dangerous to older kids. We just heard about a situation in I think it was somewhere on the East Coast where a girl was sexually assaulted by a boy who was presenting as a girl and went into the girls' locker room. And so that actually puts girls at risk if boys are allowed to go into their locker rooms and facilities. It also undermines their rights and protections. It takes away girls' sports. If any boy can identify as a girl, then it takes away the whole concept of girls' sports, which was started because we know that there are these differences. And so it's harmful not just to the child, as we mentioned, but also to the children who are around that child.